What's up, you guys? It's Anam Khan. So Mullen Automotive, ticker symbol MULN stock, has finally submitted their 10K to the SEC. It was a crazy document. It was due way back in September 30th. They filed for an extension. It was due a few days ago. They just submitted it a few days ago. And in this video, I want to go over it with you guys. It's a 45-page long document. It's painstakingly boring. So I figured, let me read through it and then I'll share my findings with you guys. I took notes, they're right here. So let's go through it. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to this channel if you get value out of it. Now let's get started. First of all, what is a 10K filing? For those of you that don't know, it's a comprehensive report filed annually in the fourth quarter generally, and it's required by the SEC. It's an audited document. Unlike a 10Q, which is quarterly and is unaudited. Let's start on page 1. Let's start right off the bat. So, page 1, one of the main things I noticed was that as of March 31st, 2022, the company was worth $656.8 million. And as of January 6th, 2023, there were 1.7 billion shares. So I did some quick math. 1.7 billion shares as of January 6th, 2023 at 38 cents, which was the closing price, I believe. It puts the company at about $637.9 million in valuation, which is about $20 million less from March of that year, of 2022, sorry. So in March of 2022, if you do the math at $3 a share, because that's what the price was at the time, there were probably 219 million shares. I know it's kind of all over the place. It was quick math though. And right off the bat, what I found, and I'm pretty sure I did this correctly, but in March of 2022, there were 219 million shares. In January of 2023, there are 1.7 billion shares. That is a lot of dilution. That's the first thing I saw. Literally page 1, that's what I saw. And I'm like, whoa. All right, so page 2. Page 2, they do a quick summary of Bollinger and Mullen 5. So in the company background, Mullen Automotive acquired 544,347 shares of common stock of Bollinger Motors. This is approximately 60% of the outstanding equity ownership for the company. And this was purchased at about $148.6 million, paid in a combination of cash and shares. So they received 282,825 new shares from Bollinger Motors, and the remaining shares were bought from the sellers. On September 7th, 2022, Mullen Automotive announced its first EV acquisition, which will propel the company into the medium-duty truck classes 4 to 6, along with B1 Sport Utility and B2 pickup trucks. So just a quick overview of Bollinger Motors over there, and then the Mullen 5. Mullen 5 basically will start production in late 2024. Now, this is something that I found interesting. They're saying with an end-to-end ecosystem that will support owners from test driving to financing to servicing through a future unique dealership model, customers will be supported through every aspect of EV ownership. Now, what I find interesting here is that this dealership model actually sounds like it's the traditional dealership model, which is old school, which is what everyone does and still does. Now, when I went through the statement further in the 10K, I realized that they're trying to do a model similar to Tesla, where it's direct to consumer. So this statement was a bit unclear, but if they're trying to do something that's direct to consumer, which they probably are, because I'll be honest, from my review of the statement, a lot of the things seem like they're kind of copying Tesla on. But it is what it is. So we'll go over it further in detail. On page 3, we talk about some more accomplishments that Mullen Automotive had this year. So on October 22nd, 2022, the U.S. Bankruptcy Court approved the company acquisition of electric vehicle company ELMS, Electric Last Mile Solutions, assets in an all-cash purchase. Mullen acquired ELMS manufacturing facility in Mishawaka, Indiana. This includes all inventory, intellectual property for the Class 1 and Class 3 vehicles, and the ELMS asset acquisition and recent acquisitions of the majority ownership of Bollinger Motors give Mullen the ability to integrate Bollinger vehicle platforms B1 and B2 along with Mullen's 5 and 5 RS platforms. Now, they're also going to talk a bit more in detail about how they plan on dividing them up. So, manufacturing optimization will include moving the Mullen 5 EV crossover production to the Mishawaka, Indiana factory from the Mississippi factory. So basically, the 5 crossover is going to be made in Indiana now instead of Mississippi. And then Mississippi, the Tunica, Mississippi facility will be mainly focusing on the commercial 1 through 6 vehicles. Now, something that I did want to point out here is that they talked a lot about the B1, the B2, and the B4 vehicles. The B4 apparently had their most knowledge behind it. However, despite all the talk about this B4 vehicle, I could not find a single picture of it. So the only statement I saw was that the B4 electric chassis cabs will be the first of the company's commercial lineup to hit the ground in upcoming client test programs. So it's supposed to be one of the first vehicles that touches the clients. However, I haven't seen a single picture of it yet. And let me know if you guys see one, but I could not find one online. Moving on. Page 8, for our initial vehicle launches. One of the statements that I found really interesting. We will use state-of-the-art lithium-ion battery technology. We believe that our future solid-state polymer battery technology will eventually allow us to deliver high-voltage batteries under $100 per kilowatt hour at over 2 times the energy density of current commercially available lithium batteries. Now, why did I find this interesting? Well, it's because Mullen Automotive, a while back, said that they are on track for solid-state batteries for their EV. Now, this caught a lot of people off guard. The stock went up like crazy because it's a big deal. When you have solid-state batteries, it makes the vehicles a lot lighter, which gives you a lot more miles. And this technology would change the whole game for EV. So when Mullen Automotive out of nowhere said that they are very close to solid-state technology, everyone was shocked, especially because they invested about a fraction of what the big boys invested in terms of research and development. So I believed that a lot of that was kind of hot air. And guys, I want to make it very clear. I'm not against the company. I'm not a bear. I'm not someone who thinks the company will do extremely well either. I'm very neutral about this company. I'm just here to inform you guys. So when I work very closely with EV. I'm an engineer. I have an engineering background. I have an MBA. So when I heard that they are very close to solid state technology, but then saw no real factual evidence to prove it, I was kind of curious to see if that was true or not. And judging by this statement, I don't think they're close. And this is me being very honest. This is my opinion. I don't think they're close to solid state technology. I don't think they're going to have it soon like all the other big guys are. And I think they're just trying to delay it with statements like these. So again, it seems like they're going to be using the standard lithium-ion batteries just like every other person. And then they go on to explain why electric vehicles are the future, why they chose to sell SUVs as their first car, blah, 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 blah. So page 9, I liked page 9 because it gave a lot more information about their vehicles. And the first one was obviously the Mullen 5, which I'm sure if you're watching this video, you're already aware of it. The Mullen 5 is going to be the crossover SUV. The price range is going to be $55,000 to $75,000. Now, the Mullen 5 RS is interesting to me, and I'll tell you why. They put some big numbers out there. 200 miles an hour top speed, 0 to 60 in under 2 seconds, 1,000 horsepower. This is in competition with the big boys. Like when I say big boys, I mean the Tesla Model S Plaid. I mean the Lucid, what's the new one called? The Lucid Sapphire. And these companies have had technology out there in research and development for decades at this point. I think 15, maybe 20 years. And so for Mullen to come out and commit to these huge numbers, it's a pretty big deal for me. Now, as an engineer, here's something that I found interesting. They give you a top speed, 200 miles an hour, 0 to 60, under 2 seconds, big stuff, 1,000 horsepower, power output of the electric motors, cool. Something they're conveniently missing are the range. They don't give a mile range in this, and that's very important. Because as an engineer, when you have an electric motor, you can have one or the other. That has never been a big deal. The problem with electric cars before Tesla came along is that they either had a decent range but no power, or they had decent power but no range. The cars wouldn't go far enough. So when Tesla came around, they were able to balance it where you got reasonable power and you got reasonable range. So when I see Mullen 5 RS with these crazy power numbers but no range, it doesn't mean that much to me yet. I want to see if they were able to balance out the range. The Tesla Model S Plaid, they got crazy, 1,000 horsepower motors. They also got like 300-400 mile range, which is insane. All right. Wanted to put that out there. They also have information about the Mullen commercial vehicles, the Mullen Go mini cars that will be used for deliveries in tiny European roads. And now I talked about the Mullen iGo in other videos. I believe this will most likely be a Chinese car that is bought and then repurposed as a Mullen vehicle and sent to Europe. And the first samples should have been received by the reseller in Ireland by now. I know they did reach Europe. So moving on, we get to page 11 and we talk a little bit more about the battery here. Their solid state battery technology. Now this is gonna reassure why I'm not too confident in their battery claims. So what they wrote was that on July 20th, 2022, Linghong Gushang Holding Group Company Limited, aka Linghong Bao Group, and Mullen Automotive agreed to continue their 2019 agreement after the global pandemic. Now, why is this such a big deal? Well, because Hindenburg Research did a hit piece on Mullen Automotive a while back, and one of the things they claimed is that this company that Mullen Automotive claims to do business with, it's fake. There's nothing there. They said when they looked into the company, it was registered just a year before the deal was made. So the deal between Mullen Automotive and this Chinese company was made and signed in 2019. The company that's supposedly doing research on state-of-the-art solid-state battery technology is only registered a year before that deal. So how much technology do they even have? How much research capability do they really have? Now, moving forward, Hindenburg Research also said that Mullen made one payment of $390,000 to them and then terminated the contract. When Hindenburg Research tried to go back on the website of that Chinese company that does the research, the website wasn't even active anymore. So those, in my opinion, are red flags. I'm not sure how far the technology is, the solid-state technology. Is there any proof of concept? Anything that we can see? I would really love to see that. That would definitely increase myself in confidence. But as of right now, that's definitely something that stuck out to me. Now moving on, page 14, there was a lot of the standard stuff. They talked about their review of Lounge Point. That's where people are going to be buying their vehicles. They can test drive the vehicles. They got like a mini store, similar to the Tesla stores. They have service points and mobile services, and they hope that these will be away from the lounge points where people buy cars. Apparently it will lower the cost. They have, the standard over-the-air updates, commercial marketing plans. It was pretty standard. I didn't see anything crazy here. Their focus on federal fleet. They believe that Mullen Automotive believes that there's a big opportunity to make the federal fleet electric. I believe there's like 650,000 vehicles that President Biden wants to change to electric. So there's a big opportunity there for Mullen Automotive. And then I believe they also hired an executive that will help them do that. And then they also said they plan on using EV credits and also sell credits to car manufacturers that don't have electric vehicles, that don't meet the quota. And this is similar to what Tesla did back in the day. They became pretty profitable doing that. So again, standard stuff, nothing out of the ordinary here. Now moving on, they talked about research and development. Now, why was this interesting to me? Well, because they spent $21.7 million in research and development, which quite frankly doesn't sound like too much. And it's a little scary when they say that they're really close to a solid state battery, because $21 million is nothing. I think companies invested $1 billion, like multi-billion dollars, right? So when I see $20 million research and development, I'm like, that's not that much. But then on the other hand, it seems like it was a lot as well, and I'll tell you why. So $21 million, $21.7 million were used to develop two Mullen 5 show cars and building out the Mullen 5 demonstrator vehicle. So in $21 million, they basically built 3 cars from scratch to semi-finish. Now that is about $7 million a car. I don't know, man. That might be a little on the higher end. And if that's all they spend their research and development budget on, I don't know. It's not too promising about their future. Now, the last 22 pages or so of the 10K just went over the risks they have in the company. They were very, very detailed in these risks. I don't have time to go over every single one. You guys would probably fall asleep. So I just outlined some big ones that I saw. So one of the ones I saw is that they owe $1.7 million to the IRS. They're actually default in the loan, and that was interesting because I'm not sure if that's really that common with companies. I don't know. I don't think you should be owing money to the IRS, but yeah, that was definitely one of the risks they had there, and the IRS obviously will have a lien on them if they choose to. Something else that they noted is that they need financing. In 2022, they incurred net losses of $154 million with no end in sight. Their cash is being used in operating activities at a rate of $63 million. So, that puts $63 million being used in operating expenses, and the company is worth like $600 million. I mean, you could do the math there. Now, another risk that they outlined was that they might not meet the compliance of the NASDAQ. And again, I've went over this in previous videos. One of the requirements that the NASDAQ has is that your stock price should be over $1 at all times. And if it's not, like in Mullen Automotive's case, it has not been for a while, they will be put on probation. They basically got to take action to get their stock price either above that or, do a reverse stock split. So these are all things, it's a risk. Most likely Mullen Automotive will probably end up doing a stock split. My guess is that they're trying to get their stock price up so they don't have to do a reverse split, but I think they might have to eventually. Now, commitments to issue shares. Now, this is another risk they outlined, is that they have commitments to issue shares of common stock, and this may cause significant dilution in the future. For a company that's already diluted so much, this is not a good thing. This is not something you want to see. And the last risk that I outlined is that basically this was a risk that they outlined several times towards the end, and I think it's a pretty good summary of the company overall, so pay attention to this one. We have incurred significant losses since inception, and we expect that we will continue to incur losses for the foreseeable future, which makes it difficult to assess our future viability. So I guess that's an excellent summary of the company overall. I really think everyone who invests in this stock should think about that risk as they invest in it. Now, I mean, I'm not going to say again that I'm for this stock, I'm a bear. I do have a few shares. I buy them just to keep track of the company, I guess. But I hope you really enjoyed this video. I hope you found it valuable. Let me know in the comments below. I'll see you guys in the next video. Make sure you like and subscribe. Peace.